Hi, welcome to Before They're Verified, the podcast where we support people who are pursuing things they are passionate about, regardless of the amount of likes or followers they have. I'm your host, Hannah, and this is the season premiere of Season 2, so thank you so much for listening. This season, I'm trying something a little different. While there's obviously audio since this is a podcast, there is also video on YouTube and Spotify, so you can watch and listen if you'd like. Today we have Karah Andrews as our guest, and we discuss STEM education along with how she started as a communications major and became a chemistry teacher. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy. Yes, so welcome.
Thank you, Hannah.
You're so welcome. This is season 2 of Before They're Verified. I'm trying a new setup. Karah gets to be my guinea pig, which is lovely.
I have always been a guinea pig.
Yes.
Since day one. Day one guinea pig.
You know, it's kind of I did not do this intentionally, but talking about science and stuff, you know, you're the test subject.
Yeah, I'm the test subject. That's funny because my student teacher a long time ago, he used to refer to first period kids, like kids who are in the first class of the day, as the GPs.
The guinea pigs. Was that just to test out how the day was going to go, or just because they were the first class and then you teach the same class multiple times a day?
Yeah, it's like a little bit of both. You know, you develop a lesson and then you think you know what the pacing is going to be, but there could be like something that's, you know, they really struggle to grasp this topic and we need to spend a little bit more time on it. And it's the first class of the day that you teach the lesson to, that you're like, oh shoot, I actually need to allow this time, or oh wow, they did that really fast.
Yeah.
And then you modify it.
It's kind of like coaching too, I guess, now that I think about it. When I would coach gymnastics, like if I always used to think that just a thing we would do would take a lot longer. I'm like, oh, they're going to take like 15 minutes to do this workout or whatever. Take them like 5. I'm like, crap, now I have to fill the time. Like, what do I do?
It is exactly like that. That is 100% relevant. Yes.
Perfect. You know, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but when I went to school, because I was originally a marketing major, and then I was going to double major in education.
I never knew that.
Did I tell you that?
I knew that you were a marketing major and that you stopped, obviously, and then went to interior design, and then you had access to the business building and you liked interior design, but this was really your passion. And that's about the extent. I never knew that.
I tried too much, you know. I didn't do that actually, so I didn't even try. I thought about trying too much.
We've all been there, especially in college. We've all been there trying just trying really, really hard.
Trying and not always succeeding.
Yeah, really not always
Paying too much money to try. Yeah. Well, that's actually a good transition. Karah and I met in college.
Mm-hmm.
We have had another guest on the podcast last season for one of our bonus episodes, which, by the way, has nothing to do with our podcast, my podcast. I always say ours if there's other people involved in this, but it's just me.
It's really you. It's really just a one-woman show.
Kendall did help me check my lighting earlier, so shout out Kendall.
Shout out Kendall.
But however, I digress. Julia, shout out Julia. She was in the bonus episode for Game of Thrones. We talked about Game of Thrones with her and my cousin Ashley. And Julia and Karah grew up together, went to high school together.
Yeah.
So Julia and Karah knew each other, and so that's kind of the way that I found you, because I had known Julia. And I wanted to start with college because I think I've said this many times to many people, but it's a common theme. So why not talk about it, right? The common theme is trying to figure out what you want to do.
Oh, yeah.
When you're in college.
That is what it's about.
Exactly.
The whole theme.
It seems like an odd concept to spend a ton of money to try and figure out what you want to do on things you might not want to do. Mm-hmm. To then find out possibly what you want to do. And then have to try and do it in order to make the money back.
I think that almost all of us are really good examples of that entire statement.
Yes, because our friend group, we've talked about this. I think almost every single one of us, at least a year ago, was not doing what we went to school for or something along the lines of that.
I was never really doing what I went to school for.
Well, okay, but let's talk about that because you have a bachelor's degree in like full-blown just chemistry, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean that's close enough. It's in biomedical sciences.
Yes.
So it's like basically supposed to prep you to go to med school, which I very much did not do. Because that sounds like the worst. Shout out to everyone who did go to med school because that is hard. Hard. And no.
Biomedical. What'd you say?
It's so at Oregon State they call it biohealth sciences.
Right.
But nobody knows what that is. So I just decided to change it to biomedical sciences. And they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah.
Medical sciences.
No
cool.
idea why they chose biohealth sciences.
Yeah.
It's biomedical.
Again, Oregon State, we love them, but you're confusing.
Love them.
Why? Was that what you originally started with? Evil laugh from Hannah.
No, it was not.
Darn.
It is not what I started with.
But you got done in 4 years, right?
I did. Yeah, I got done in 4 years.
And you changed schools a little bit around as well because you went to a school in Washington for a little bit, correct?
I did.
Because you went to Oregon State and then you went to Washington and then you came back, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And because did you go to Washington because you wanted to be home? By the way, everyone who's listening, Karah is from Washington.
I am. Yeah, I'm from Seattle. I'm currently living in Seattle.
You went to Washington just because the program at Washington you wanted to pursue, or because it was home, or what was that change for you?
So it was a little bit of both, honestly. I went to Oregon State and I loved it, obviously, like really great. But I started out in communications.
Okay.
Because, my whole, when people are like, oh, you're so good at that one thing, so you should just keep on doing that one thing. And I'm like, okay. So I went to school originally for communications.
Okay.
But then I realized promptly after being there for a little while that like the communications program there was not very strong. But then by the time that I then I was like, oh, cool. Where's like a good communications program? So I could really like dig my heels into like the journalism aspect of it. Because I really wanted to like go into journalism.
Okay.
Washington State University is like one of the top journalism schools in the country.
Okay, I see.
They have a really, really good communications and journalism program. So it was like almost at the end of my first quarter at Oregon State that I was like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to just transfer to WSU because they have this really great communications program. And
why not?
That makes so much more sense.
Right.
I get in-state tuition. I get to go there. And at the time, like one of my really, really good friends went there. So obviously I was like, party all the time with my friend. Then at the end of my first year at OSU, so I had already committed to going to Wazoo. I like knew where I was going to live and all that stuff. Like I was just like super over it. I was super over communications. And at the time I was like friends with some people who were in pre-med, basically. Like they were in biomedical sciences. And we would like talk about all this cool stuff that they were learning in their class. And I was taking like a bio class and we were like kind of learning some anatomy stuff. And then like, I took a chemistry class that was a lot of biochemistry. And I was just like super interested in all of it because it's really, really cool and relevant. And then I think that just one day I was like, I really like this way more than anything that I'm learning in any of my communications classes. Like, so then promptly I was just like, oh yeah, let's just do that.
So you just did the one term.
So, and then I went to WSU. Yeah, I went to Washington State.
Okay. Oh, I see.
For one semester.
Right. They have semesters. Okay.
Yeah, they have one semester. Yeah. So I went there and I did biomedical science. I didn't do anything with communications. And so I was doing that and like, it was fine, like everything was totally fine. But like at the time we were having some real not great mental health issues, not helped by the fact that I was that it was pretty, if anyone's ever been to Washington State University,
Mm-hmm.
you either love it or you hate it,
Yeah.
is sort of the vibes that I'll say. It's a stellar institution, really great education for a lot of people who know how to seek out the right resources,
Right.
but it's in the middle of nowhere,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
really truly, and there's not a whole lot to do. And it's like if you're not big on like going out on the weekends, then there's not much else that you can do. And I will absolutely say that I did not try very hard. I didn't try to like make a whole lot of friends because I had like one of my best friends already there, but she was just perfectly content driving home every weekend to see her boyfriend, and I was not, and really no fault of her own. Like she did her absolute best to try to keep me in check, but I was already just sort of going downhill from other mental health crises.
Mm-hmm.
So none of it was positive factors.
Right. Right.
So then knowing that I had like a really good support system at Oregon State and knowing how much I like loved it there and
Even with all the
how
rain.
even with all the rain. Well, Pullman, it snows and it's icy and was super, oh my gosh, we had some of the worst wildfires
Oh,
in
wow.
Washington the first year that like when I was there.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It
Literally
was
nothing about
ugh.
that sounds enjoyable.
No, I mean like I met some really great people at Wazoo that I'm still like loosely friends with, and obviously I'm still friends with my best friend at the time. Yeah. So yeah, and then that's
Yeah.
why I
So
just
then
came
you went
back.
back. I think, so where I come in that, because I'm self-involved.
No,
Just
yeah, please.
because where I came in was when you came back the second time. So I
Yes.
had only, I think, maybe met you once when you were there before freshman year.
Yeah, maybe like once or twice.
Yeah, so I had only just, it was kind of like, oh yeah, I'm like Julia would say, like my friend from high school, like Karah, like it didn't register to me. And then when you moved back or went back to Oregon State, you were looking for, I almost just said lodging,
You're not wrong.
housing. And we had room in our house. And so that's when you literally, like the first time I really got to know you, you were moving into our house, I think,
I know.
which is crazy to think about. So I think we just became really good friends starting there, but I don't think I realized that you were already changed into the biomedical sciences at Wazoo
Yeah.
because I knew you went there. Okay, but that's interesting because the second you said that at the end of Oregon State, where you already knew you were going to Wazoo, that you wanted to do biohealth sciences. For those of you who don't know who are listening, Oregon State is one of like the best science-based colleges out there.
Yeah.
It's literally known for its like engineering and science departments. We had like the best security too on our campus. I think I've said this in another episode, but I love this fun fact. I don't know if it's there anymore, but they have or had a nuclear something nuclear that was on our
Yeah.
campus. What do you know what it was, Kara?
So they had a nuclear reactor in one
Yes.
of the research labs. I think that they were looking at atomic fusion as an energy source.
Okay, cool. Which is insane, first of
I
all.
could be wrong. I really could. But I know for a fact that there was a nuclear reactor on
Yes.
campus in one of the research labs. And that's why they were required to have a police presence within a mile of the reactor or something, 24 hours,
Yep.
7 days
So
a week.
I think we're one of like the safest campuses because we had like Corvallis, which is the city, police, our own campus security, and then we also had state police on campus like pretty
Yeah.
much constantly because we had a nuclear reactor on our campus. But yeah, so anyway, when you said that, it was fascinating because I honestly didn't realize that you already had switched over to that realm before you went to Wazoo. But yes, Oregon State is a very science based school. So that's funny that you left right when you were like, science.
Yeah, I know. I just, I wish I really shouldn't have left, but I
No,
already
but
had all the plans,
yeah.
I was just
But it's
all about
it's
plants.
probably a good thing because you probably wouldn't have lived with us if you hadn't left to then come back. Because you would have had to find something else, maybe, or a different house. I don't know.
I
Maybe
have
you would have
no
moved
idea
in with us.
I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah. What ifs, right?
Yeah.
Um, but okay, so then I was gonna ask you because you went to school for communication. You said originally. You said you're a great writer, which, by the way, everyone, in college, Karah was our tutor, if you will. I still to this day text Karah questions about how to properly write a sentence. I am a good writer in theory.
Oh, you're an amazing writer.
Okay. Thank you. I am a good writer in the sense of the content is good. However, the logistics of my writing are poor. So, Karah came in handy whenever I didn't know
I'm
which.
useful.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That's why we keep you around. For that part of the writing. So it all makes sense now though, because again, the communications and the writing and the journalism and that. So then you decided to go into the biomedical or biohealth sciences. I remember you doing some sort of classes, like everybody in the house was some sort of science-based situation. Then there was me and I was just coloring in the corner. But what started that? Like, do you remember a point in like middle school or high school where that like you can connect back to be like, oh, that I actually did enjoy chemistry and science and all these other things. I just didn't like start with it in college.
That's a really good question.
Thank you
And
so
I have
much.
been trying to think about like the turning point or the pivotal moment in which that
Love it.
happened.
The plot
And to
twist.
be honest, I was racking my brain. Well, there was one, but I'll get to that. So in what's funny is that in middle school and high school and basically like my entire life up until college, I had this weird narrative in my head that I didn't like science.
Okay.
And my least favorite teacher, and obviously now that I'm grown, I have a lot different perspective on this, but my least favorite teacher was my chemistry teacher.
Okay.
Because she was 2 years away from retirement. Bless her soul. She had been teaching for so long, but she just did not care at all. And that was abundantly clear. And so by her not caring, it made none of us care. And I was just like, chemistry is the worst. It is so boring. It is not applicable in any sense. Like, I don't understand what's going on. So therefore, it's not worth my time. And so that was actually chemistry in high school was the only class that I failed.
Oh my gosh. What? Okay,
Yeah.
but that's kind of a cool origin story.
It is kind of a cool origin story. And I'm like, oh, for dramatic effect. But
Yeah.
it's true because I feel like that's a really critical path, if you will. If you don't like biology or chemistry or physics in high school, it's easy to just write off like science in general.
Right.
Just like science is not for me. When really it's like there's a lot of factors that go into not being successful in one thing for 6 months of your life.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's crazy. Okay, I'm gonna fast forward and then jump back really quick.
Okay.
For everyone who doesn't know, because they probably wouldn't, because Karah's first time guest. Karah was a chemistry teacher. Is a chemistry teacher. She teaches of the chemistry.
I taught
She
high
taught.
school chemistry.
She taught. Teached. So have you ever told your students? I almost just said kids. I mean, I guess you call
Yeah, they are. They're the kids.
Have you ever told your students that you failed high school chemistry?
I did tell them in my student teaching.
Oh, okay.
I like mentioned it because I think that I was like prompted by my lead teacher,
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess. I think he was like, "Oh, tell them, like why you're here or like what your purpose is in something." And he really had a flair for the theatrics of teaching, which is a whole nother side of teaching that I don't really know how I feel about, but a lot of really good teachers have that, and I'm like, well, it works, so whatever. And so I like told them, and I think there was like some reaction from some of them, but most of them were like, okay,
Yeah, they're high schoolers.
teenagers, yeah, they're just like, okay, whatever, she's weird. But I did have one girl who told me that like that sort of like showed her that it's like okay to not be good at something and then be better at it later on, or just like not to give up. But
I was just curious. I remember when you were in college, and because you and Tiana, I believe at the time, were both in the same major, and then Tiana did her own program. She left Oregon State, did the other program, which,
Mhm.
full wraparound here. Tiana was the very first guest I had on Before They're Verified. Hi, Tiana. I'm
Yeah. Hi,
shouting out
Tiana.
everybody today. This is a shout out episode. So if you listen to the very first episode of Before They're Verified, you'll find that out. But yes, because you guys were in the same major, same schooling, like the same thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But we had a lot of the same
Same
classes.
classes, yes. What I'm getting to here is there's so many different avenues you can go down when you're learning those things.
Mm-hmm.
And, Tiana obviously went down a different path, but chemistry in a like as its own thing, when you decided to focus on chemistry, did you know you wanted to be in education and be a teacher for that, or did you originally want to do research or something else? That wasn't it? Okay, because weren't you going to do like lab work or something like that as like there was like a mentorship or something? I don't know. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you're right. I was going to do that. I was going to do some kind of lab research. I think it was like laboratory science was what it was called.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh, I want to be a pharmacist. And then I was like, oh, I don't really want to be a pharmacist anymore. And I just like didn't really. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to become a psychiatry researcher. And I actually had an internship in psychiatry research at OHSU.
Okay.
And it was okay. I came out of that internship, like it was a super awesome experience. Like I really liked the head researcher that I was working under. I liked all my lab mates, coworkers. It was really awesome, but it did show me just sort of like the realities of lab life when you're just in a dark building for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And it's like super small. You literally have broom closets as like it's like patient consultation rooms, or like testing materials all get stored weirdly. I don't know. It was just
The atmosphere.
it was definitely the atmosphere, sure. And just like I didn't think that it was going to be glamorous, but I'm like, this is really hard because it's dependent on funding, and you can get 10 years down the road and then your funding gets cut off and then you're just like done.
Wow.
You can go try to find more funding if you want, but you just spent the past 10 years of your life like doing something that you will never get to finish. And that was really scary.
Yeah.
To put so much time and effort into something and then have it like not come of anything.
Right. So that was kind of the deciding factor of like maybe not to go down that route.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, like, that's not common. Most of the time people do publish stuff and it gets great reception, or like it's the more funding or whatever. But I wasn't super jazzed about it after my internship, which is what I feel like you should be if you have an internship in something that you actually really want to do.
That's what I feel like. Yeah, that's what they're for, right?
It is.
It's to test it out and see how you really like it. So after the internship, did you think of anything else, or did you where was the turning point again into wanting to go be a teacher for science?
So that was right before my senior year. I had that internship to my junior and senior year college, and I kind of came back to college and I was just like, well, I guess I'll just kind of keep on keeping on.
Okay, yeah.
And it was really serendipitous because, so as we have established, I was a writing tutor in college. And
she literally was like, she tutored me,
yeah.
but she was actually a writing tutor, guys.
I was a writing tutor, like an undergraduate writing tutor for the Academic Success Center at Oregon State.
It's her job.
And it was my job. I got paid.
Yes.
Very little, but I got paid. And so I had like literally been teaching this entire time. And I was like, oh yeah, I like my job. And I did really like my job. And I don't think I realized how much I liked my job. And then my senior year, they were like, oh, we're short an instructor for a class. Normally we ask grad students to do this, but we don't have any more grad students to ask. So let's go look at our senior writing tutors. And so then I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Like, I get paid a little bit more to instruct this freshman class. It was really small. It was more of a
like a cohort thing?
Yeah. It was more of like a cohort thing. I only had like 8 kids.
Yeah, okay.
8 kids. Oh my gosh. 8 students.
I know. See?
They are adults.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had these 8 students in this class and I was like trying to teach them writing. and it was part of like the writing 101 thing at Oregon State that everyone's required to take their freshman year.
Yep.
So it was like an additional cohort for support for struggling writers.
Cool.
And one day I was like really stressing, and I remember exactly where I was too. I was like walking up the steps to the library because that's where we had the class. And I was like, you know what? This is like what I was looking forward to my entire day.
Yeah.
Was like coming to this class, like checking on their progress and seeing how much they learned and like how they did on their assignments and everything. And I'm like, huh, that's weird. And so I like walked in and I did the whole thing. And then I like came back to like my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband.
Now her husband.
Now my husband.
Shout out Kyle.
Shout out Kyle. And I was like, I think I want to be a teacher. And he's like, what?
Oh.
What?
Yeah,
and
wait,
I'm like,
say that
yeah.
again?
Yeah, I think I want to be a teacher.
Oh.
And then he's like, well, what are you going to teach? And I'm like, well, I could teach biology. But at that point, I was so burnt out on biology. Oh my gosh. Because, you know, I had to take like a different biology class every single quarter for like the entirety of my degree.
Right. It's
obviously it's biomedical sciences. I was so burnt out on bio, and I really liked chemistry because that was the first subject besides bio that I took, and I actually feel like I really got it, you know, after my terrible experience in high school.
Yeah, you had a do-over.
Yeah, I just really liked how chemistry and physics later on, but physics is physics, so
physics is crazy.
I really liked how chemistry provided sort of like an explanation for things. You know, like you always knew what was going to happen.
Yep.
And it was all these different factors that came in and contributed to it, but you could always predict what the outcome of the reaction is going to be. You're going to be able to calculate it. You're going to be able to say, oh, see, this is because, you know, that's an ionic compound. And so therefore it has a charge, and
there's an answer.
There's an answer.
Yes.
Exactly.
We love answers to everything, especially overthinkers like us. Yes. Raise your hand if you're an overthinker. Wait, which hand? I don't know. Which one? So, but that's cool that it kind of was the writing class was the thing. You knew that you still liked the sciences because you had done the communication earlier and knew that maybe writing wasn't the path. Not that it's still not, but maybe just specifically journalism or something. Which actually, I kind of just want to ask, would you ever be interested in taking journalism classes just on the side and like writing classes on the side? Or you like, do you still have that desire a little bit for that side of life? Or is this just you're content with this path and you're like, yep, this is what I want to do and was meant to do?
Well, I don't know. 'Cause like, yeah, no.
You like what you're doing.
Yeah, I like it. And seeing how hard journalists work and seeing sort of the ins and outs of what their daily life looks like, and just like how much time and, you know, hours of driving and writing and editing and revising and like all this stuff that they put into it. Yeah. And it just kind of like demystified the whole thing for me. And
yeah, I can see that. Absolutely. Yeah. But yes, okay, cool. So then you became a teacher. No, just like that. Snap of the fingers, you became a teacher.
Yep.
So you liked chemistry, and then you wanted to teach, and then you graduated. And we're going to get into it. We're going to get into the teaching conversation because pros and cons. I feel like there's a lot of information out there, and like so many people know, like they'll say, oh yeah, teachers are underpaid. Teachers don't get enough credit. The education system, like there's hardly any education system that's actually working, right? But I feel like the only people who can actually speak about it are the ones who are in it. Everyone else is just a parent or someone who went to school but isn't actually teaching. And they're just seeing everything from the outside versus the inside, how the machine is working. So you graduated, you got your master's in teaching, and then you ended up getting a job as a chemistry teacher at a high school. So, side note, I just remember when you got that job and all of us were like planning a girls' weekend or something, and like we were like trying to figure out how much alcohol we were bringing or something like that. I was like, I just love that Karah is a high school teacher right now. Just like
Officially.
officially, I'm like, it's just like such a mind trip when one of your friends becomes a teacher and then you're thinking about when your high school teachers were that young and you're like, crap. Anyway,
Hmm.
how was your first year of teaching, Kara?
Oh, pretty rough, Hannah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And like to have a little bit of a focus here on this question, my point of this to get to it is what is something as a teacher that you want other people to realize or understand, maybe not like to like feel what you're feeling, but just
mhm.
we have you to ask questions. Like what
Yeah.
is something that like you want to point out that maybe people don't realize about education?
Yeah. So I will just say I have the utmost respect for everybody who is like still in the education industry and anyone who like knew to leave, who have
Yeah.
left to left
to left it
um
out.
to left it out. And I also really respect people who go into it, like so much admiration for those people who spend the time and like energy with the kids every day and or with the students every day and still want to go back and still care about them and still care about their learning and outcomes. The main thing, and if you don't already get this from your student teaching, which is required to become a teacher anyways.
Right.
So like my student teaching was an entire year, which is pretty unusual. Normally it's about like a semester or 6 months.
Oh, okay.
The minimum is 3 months in Washington State, but mine was an entire year. That gave me a really big perspective. And even so, I don't really know if I even really realized the extent of it. Your first year teaching, that is the only thing you're doing.
Yeah.
No matter how good you are at time management, no matter how much you can like detach yourself and have a good work-life balance, if you're planning on doing anything else with your life during your first year being a teacher, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's not going to
You're
happen.
not doing anything else.
Yes. I don't know anybody who has been a teacher who would say otherwise.
Right.
So I don't even know how many hours I put in every single week for that first year teaching. And then my first year teaching was the 2019, like being a full-time classroom teacher,
Yeah.
was the 2019-2020 school year.
Yep.
We all know what happened in March of 2020.
Yep. I remember us all FaceTiming during that time
Mm-hmm.
because one, we all lived in different places, and then two, COVID hit. So we were all like not doing nothing, but we were all trying to figure out what to do with our lives. And I
Right.
remember we were like, Kara, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
how do you teach from, like, what are you doing? Like, you had the hardest situation out of all of us, out of most people, but what a start to
It was
your
kind of a blur.
career. Yeah.
That was kind of a blur. I didn't work for like a month.
Like
It
in pretty
was
much March, right?
pretty much March. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Because
Like,
they were figuring out how to change all that around, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
they told us, hey, pause school for 4 weeks. Like, you don't do anything. We have no idea what to do with kids. We have no idea what to do with you. We have no idea like what is happening. So just don't work. And so I like literally didn't work for a month.
Right.
But then all of a sudden they were like, okay, so here's what we're going to do for the rest of the school year. You need to create online lessons and video yourself teaching and engage the students at least X number of times a week and reach out to the parents and do all this. And so it was like 0 to 100 real fast. And once we got to that, oh gosh, like, I don't know, 60, 70, 80-hour weeks.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
mean,
just
I
all
was
from
home all the
home.
time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But that's also a topic in and of itself because I have a lot of thoughts on these kinds of things because you know me and
mm-hmm,
separating work and life
mm-hmm.
and all of these different things. But is that just kind of one of the things that you're just so frustrated with about teaching? Or how would you change that? Or what kind of perspective do you have on like the work-life balance with education?
Yeah. Also, a really good question. I think that the work-life balance with any public service job is really challenging. And just using teaching as an example, this also applies to, like nurses or any kind of like city official.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is so hard to not take your work home
Mm-hmm.
because it improves the lives of all of these kids that you care about.
Right.
And you care so much about their learning and their success and their path and their future that it's like a lot of the times you get really overwhelmed because you get super invested and then you just like want to, oh, wait, I kind of want my own life too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really, really hard to have when you are also trying to improve and be invested in the lives of 100 other people.
Right, right. Do you think that there's ever, how do I say this? Do you think that as a society, we have just conformed to this idea that those kinds of jobs are going to have to do it that way? Or do you think there's a way to stop that cycle and figure out a different way around it? Or do you think that's just kind of how those kinds of jobs are pretty much going to have to, like, they're just going to have to be that way?
I really don't want to think that that's the only way that it's going to be. And I mean, I don't, but just like with a lot of things, it's going to take just a complete revamping of the current system as we understand it and a lot more money into these kinds of programs and state legislature and funding from like public taxes and I don't know. There's a whole lot of other stuff. And so no, I don't think that we are bound or like doomed to just continue to repeat this cycle. And I do know of a lot of different programs that are getting started.
Okay, cool.
That can sort of help mitigate the responsibility of teachers and the responsibility of admin and just like all these people who are in those positions that are chronically kind of overworked, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And I just hope that those programs and those roles get more money invested into it and get more recognition for the importance that they have on the mental health of the teachers and then by proximity, the students.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's also the correlation of students in the schools and, like you were saying, mental health. I know nowadays, hopefully it's being talked about more, but there's this correlation between the students and the teachers. And like you're saying, seeing this like connection of, well, if a teacher is going through if they have to hide their emotions or lock it down or walk into class with a smile on their face when they were just having a breakdown, and then they have to teach the minds of these children who are going through the same exact thing. I feel like there's definitely something broken in the system there that, again, a lot of people are aware of and I feel like are helping to try and figure that out a little bit more. But as a teacher, and like you're saying, with mental health days now, I think they have them, at least in Washington and Oregon, I believe. I guess my question that I'm coming to is, teaching takes a toll on your mental health. Do you see there being more of an open communication between students and teachers nowadays because there's more discussion about it? What have you noticed as being an educator in that sense of mental health?
Yeah, I think that it very much depends on the relationship that the teacher has with the student. There were some students that would just like absolutely pour their heart out to me and I would gladly listen. And of course I would gladly listen to any of my students, but I know that, there were a number of them that probably just didn't really want to, but there were some that did. And I really valued that. And I tried to help them and give them resources and just like make them feel heard.
Yeah.
But it is really, I think that the conversation is a lot more abundant and a lot more transparent than it was. Maybe even when we were in high school, or maybe even like since 5 years ago. I do still think that there are a lot of barriers that are put up only because of the difference in authority. Because like as a teacher, there is still like you are a mandatory reporter and students know that, so they're not going to. So there's all these like bureaucratic barriers that are in place too. So I think that the transparency of the conversations is not like where we would want it to be in terms of helping them get help.
Yeah, I like how you say that, helping them get help, because when you said that, like providing them resources, it's it shouldn't be the teacher's job to be their therapist. That's not your job. That's your job, is to educate them on the topics that you went to school for. So there's that whole other topic of teachers and educators and people in administration. They're doing these jobs like you are because one day they were walking to a class and realized that they were looking forward to it, or they enjoy helping people, or they think about their students all the time and want to see them progress and succeed. But providing more access to mental health resources and other services for teachers and students within the school, not having, obviously, educators be that level of almost therapy or, help for the students. And this has been a conversation for a long time, of getting the proper help in schools for mental health for the students and the teachers. But I think it's a hard line for educators when that is what they love to do, is to help people and help the students, and you are with them so long and for so like the whole year. That finding that line between helping them and helping them get help, is very interesting. And I'm sure they don't teach you how to do that in college.
No, yeah, I don't think so either. I think you just
I don't think
gotta
they
be
teach anyone
empathetic.
that.
Yeah. Gotta be empathetic. You gotta care.
Yes.
You didn't make it that far if you didn't care, you know?
Yes.
You gotta care.
I did want to flip it a little bit. I know it sounds like we've shit on the topic a lot today, but it's more so bringing awareness to what educators and people in STEM also go through. But I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite part about being in the STEM lifestyle, community, science, chemistry, teaching? What's just something that you really want to shed light on and like enjoy about your career and your passion?
I think this is a pretty common answer actually for a lot of educators, but it's like that. It's like that aha moment, especially when it comes from somebody, typically like a student of color or like a female identifying student, that like they're like, oh my gosh, I get it. Like, I get it. I got it, guys. Like, come, I'll like help you out. Like, and just that excitement about learning and about knowledge, and that empowering feeling that they give themselves by acknowledging that they are capable and that they're smart. Like, that's just the best feeling in the world, to know that like a student knows their worth and that they know that they can do it, and that they know they can help other people.
Yeah.
That is just so awesome. And I mean, like, I think about going back all the time just for that feeling.
Yeah.
Just for that feeling to like know that this kid is going to remember this and remember feeling empowered and remember feeling capable and being able to help their peers with whatever that they were struggling with, and to get past that on their own.
Yeah. That's lovely.
Yeah.
And I agree with that too. I mean, again, I'm just connecting the coaching with it, and I did it for a little while when I was in high school and college, but it's similar. Like when you see a student or for me, a gymnast, or especially a younger girl when they're growing up and, life's hard. But when you are teaching them about strength and teaching them about being confident, and literally so many times in gymnastics, I don't know how many times in my life I've said to kids, you can do it. Like the confidence that and then once they land that pass, or once they actually do the 10 pull-ups or whatever, it is very rewarding. But it's like a double whammy rewarding, because you get to see them succeed while also feeling successful in what you're doing with them. So
Yeah.
I agree. So, Karah, are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Oh, I would love nothing more.
I don't believe you, but that's okay.
Okay.
So I have the same system this season as I did last season, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, so there's about 5 or 6 questions, rapid fire. I'm gonna rapid fire them out. If you need some time to think, feel free. It's okay.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. What is your favorite Taylor Swift song?
Oh my God.
Is it one of the ones that you played at your wedding?
No, it's probably All Too Well.
10-minute version or a regular version?
Probably the 10. There are some things about the 10-minute version that I'm like, that's an interesting creative choice, Taylor.
Oh.
I also am a huge fan of Red, like the song Red, and the album, but the song, I just like her use of
Metaphors.
imagery and metaphors and comparison, like really inspired me.
Yes, I love it.
I just have always really, really loved that song, but I obviously love her new album.
Yeah,
and I really just like her.
Yeah, maybe. Oh my God, maybe I can have you back on for a bonus episode about Taylor Swift. Love it.
I love that.
Okay, next question. I found this on the internet, so it's nothing exciting. Would you rather be in jail for 5 years or be in a coma for 10?
What am I in jail for?
Oh my God, I wish I would have written this down. I knew you were going to ask that question. I don't know. Maybe something small. Maybe something not too, like maybe you robbed a bank, but you didn't kill anybody, you know?
I think I would get more time for robbing a bank than 5
Maybe
years.
It was only like a $20 bill. You robbed a bank, a $20 bill.
Oh my gosh. If it's like a non-violent crime, then probably in jail for 5 years. Because 10 years, I feel like, no, that's too long to be in a coma.
Yeah, I thought about this question too, because I was like, for me, it wouldn't be long because you just wake up and it's 10 years later.
Right.
But for everybody else,
I mean,
how
honestly,
would they live without me? I'm just kidding.
To be really sappy, I'm just thinking that like
10 years of your
after
life
10 years, I wouldn't want to keep Kyle waiting for that long, you know? Like I wouldn't want him to like wait for me. I would want him to move on with his life. And I know that he's just like such a good guy.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't want to lose him, but I would like want him to move on.
Yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm. I think I would have chosen the 5 years as well.
5 years in jail.
Okay, next question. I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this one. If you can't, you can just say pass. What's a fun fact you like to throw out at parties?
A lot of weird chemistry facts.
I feel like also maybe some moss facts.
Oh my gosh, yeah, some moss facts. Yeah, that's more of like if I'm on a hike with someone though.
Yes. When you see the moss and you can...
I see the moss and then I can speak about the moss. We love the moss. Or the rocks. If anyone asks me a question about rocks, we love rocks.
Karah, because she's from Washington, and obviously I'm from Oregon, we would always go on hikes and stuff in college, and then when us girls in college would go visit each other, and it's one of my favorite memories is just we were walking on a hike in the forest and there was moss everywhere, like literally up every single tree, on the ground everywhere. And Karah just yells moss so loud, like I'm pretty sure it echoed through the entire forest.
I think so too.
It was a great day.
Well, okay, to put a little bit more
she just loves moss. Yeah, please do.
So that particular day, there was a ton of Spanish moss hanging from the trees.
Of course,
Spanish
moss, yes,
is a really, really nice pale green color, and it drapes down off the branches. And usually, moss is attached to the tree trunk, or it's like attached to the branch, or attached to some kind of surface where it, gets water to live. So it's not super frequent that you can see hanging moss. And it was sunny that day, so the sun was like shining through the moss. I still remember it. It was so pretty. Like
it was gorgeous.
It's just something you don't see it very often with moss, and that specific type. It's not like super common, but I don't know if it's very resilient, so that might be why. It's only it's commonly seen in it's not so commonly seen everywhere, so it's only where like there is not a lot of traffic, not a lot of like toxins or anything going on.
That's your fun fact. Spanish moss.
Sure. That's my fun fact.
And is hard to find. Okay, next question. If/when you get another cat, what do you want to name it? Not Kyle. What do you want to name it?
So here's another fun fact.
Are you getting another cat?
No, I'm not getting another cat. So the other fun fact is that the ideal number of cats is 2.
2. Because the third one will be
4.
out.
Yeah, there will always be one cat if you have an odd number of cats
Gotcha.
that will not have a buddy. So I
could see
wouldn't
that.
get another cat.
But you'd get 2 other cats.
I would get maybe. I'm actually really stoked about getting a dog.
I was gonna
soon.
say, yeah, you guys. Okay,
Yeah.
so do you have names for the dog? Idea, like, do you have
We do
ideas?
have some names for the dog.
You're not gonna tell me, are you?
Should I tell you? Like,
No, it's okay. Don't tell me because
what
I
if
want
you
to
steal my dog name?
Yeah, because I'm getting a dog or a cat or a child soon, Karah. But you probably wouldn't name the dog the same thing as you name a cat. So same question. If you ever got another cat, do you have an idea for the cat's name?
I was just talking to my sister about this. Yeah, I was just talking to my sister about this. And when we got a cat when we were younger, it was a little gray cat, and she really wanted to name it Mo, and I really wanted to name it Merlin.
Merlin.
Because wouldn't that be so cute? It's like this little gray cat. His name Merlin.
That is cute. I like that. I hope that happens someday.
So if I get a little gray cat, I'm gonna name it Merlin.
Love it. Perfect. Okay, last question. It's kind of deep, but you know what?
Okay.
We like deep
questions.
And non-deep questions.
Mm-hmm.
What's something that you would tell your younger self, let's say in middle school?
In middle school.
Yeah.
Shoot, there's a lot of things I would tell my middle school self, but I think like most relevant to this current topic that we are on,
yes,
I would say that, like, I always liked helping people, and I would tell myself that, like, that's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
That is not something that's like a weakness, because I think there were some points in middle school when I felt like people who were helpful and cared about other people, it was like a sign of weakness. So I would maybe downplay that just because, social pressure, and you're in middle school and you're a girl and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But it's truly gift. Not everyone wants to help everyone all the time.
Mm-hmm. That's a cool perspective. I like that. Okay. The last thing I do at the end of every episode is I talk about a group, organization, or a charity that my guest wants to shed some light on. So, Karah, I know you have one, and I will post it, put it on my website, talk about it. Can you talk about the one you chose?
Yeah, so I chose Girls Who Code.
Love it.
As my organization. And the reason why I chose it is because actually the number of girls that are interested in computer science has decreased by almost 10% in the last 20 years, which you wouldn't think because of all the different awareness and technology advancements that we have been going through, and just like women's rights and feminism and that whole very, very important movement. But one of the turning points of girls typically, or female identifying people, being interested in anything related to coding or computer science is around high school. It's like,
that's the time.
Yeah, like 14, 15, 16 is when they're really going to like solidify the skills and pick a trajectory, like a path that will lead them to be successful in some kind of computer science coding related profession.
Cool.
And so I just really like the work that Girls Who Code does, because they not only help a lot of national education associations, like organizations that help provide different curriculum to school districts, but they also raise a lot of money for other smaller charities and groups that then help fund more local programs for girls and female identifying individuals to go into and aspire.
Love that.
Oh, also, computer science and coding is like one of the highest paid professionals that's like attainable through just a bachelor's degree. So that is a really excellent stepping stone for maybe like marginalized communities. So like communities of color or communities that traditionally like come from poverty. So by enabling access to this occupation for all these different kinds of groups and people and women who come from all walks of life, then that can sort of help racial equity in this profession and dismantle, generational trauma and generational wealth. And it's
Yeah.
just really cool because girls can do anything, and especially code.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. That's how we're going to end the episode. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Thank you for sharing. That was lovely. Go check it out. I do link every single thing on my website. There's a little drop down. You can click organizations, and then you go to Karah's episode, and then there's a link, and you can click on it and read about it and do whatever you want with it. Karah, look at that. We're
Look
to
at
the
that.
end of the episode.
We're at the end.
Oh my gosh. First of all, thank you so much for being my first guest of season 2.
Hey.
Yay. I was honestly, we're still recording, but I was honestly very nervous to do this today. We were supposed to record a few days ago, and I just didn't have everything how I wanted it. And again, I'm an overthinker, and I worked myself up too much, and I just wanted it to be really good. But I thank you for moving it to today so that I could feel good about it. And I just had to remind myself, like, it went wonderfully.
Wonderfully.
And even if there's only 2 people who listen or 200 people who listen, it will have been something.
2 million people.
2 million people. It will be something that we can look back on as well, which I think is cool. I forget about that sometimes, of like, oh, I'll have this for me. It's not always for anyone, it doesn't have to be for anybody else. So anyway, thank you so much for being a guest.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I hope you had fun.
I had lots of fun.
Good,
this
good.
was like the most fun I've had all week.
Oh.
All month. All year.
Well, don't say that. You got married to Kyle.
I got married.
Honestly, one of the most fun times I had all year was at your wedding. So thank you.
Yay.
I'm going to have you stay there so I can just check in with you after the episode. But I'll say goodbye for the pod. So I'll see you later, Karah. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to the season premiere of season 2 of Before They're Verified. And thank you so much again to Karah for being my season 2 opener. Make sure you check out the pod on Instagram and TikTok at Before They're Verified. And you can also check out my website, beforethey'reverified.com. It has everything you need to know about when new episodes are coming out, links to the episodes, and links to the organizations and charities that my guests talk about. Last but certainly not least, make sure you go and do something that makes you happy. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.